very frustrated with this, and I have no clue what they're going to do with this character moving forward. I have no clue how they include her in anything. Welcome to the Weekly Fix podcast, where we're just two friends talking about our passions within movies, TV shows, gaming, and comics. Thanks for checking out the podcast. We hope you like it. Hello and welcome to Weekly Fix. I'm your host, Zane. Join with me is my host, Jacob. And we have a little bit different of a podcast for you. We got 2 reviews coming out, dropping today. And while we are doing this podcast, it's a day late because I had a conflict yesterday I could not get out of. But while we are recording this, our good friend Peyton, who ditched us again, is currently at the theaters watching the early premiere of Superman with his Amazon Prime membership, and that is so exciting for him. And I cannot wait to hear about his experience, see how it was, see his take on the movie. I'm going Thursday, Jacob. You're going Friday, right?
Yes.
So next, go ahead.
The only thing that really grinds my gears about Peyton is the fact that I was going to go with him to the early premiering. And then lo and behold, he just books his own tickets by himself, doesn't say anything to me. I was the one that even brought up it was a possibility. But no, I think he doesn't like us, Zane. I think that's really what it boils down to.
I think there's a little bit of that. I think he just enjoys his own personal movie experience. It's kind of crazy because you're right. You brought it up. Hey, you're like, hey, boys, let's go on Tuesday. We got Tuesday drops. And I was like, oh, sorry, I can't. Chelsea has an event, I can't go. And Peyton was like, oh, well, what about Thursday? And we were like all talking about it. And then all of a sudden he was like, hey, I got tickets for Tuesday in Gainesville.
Yeah, just, unbeknownst to us.
So pretty hilarious. I love it.
I hope he's sitting next to the loudest popcorn chewer, soda slurping moviegoer there is. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I hope he has a great time. He has a terrible angle at the screen. But
that's his payback.
That's
you didn't get the good seats.
Didn't get the good seat. We mess. We love you, Peyton, and we're so glad that you're getting to see it. Can't wait to hear your spoiler-free reaction in probably 2 hours. But anyway, the reviews we have for you guys today is we're going to be reviewing F1. I was able to go out and see that with my good friend Nick. Nick, huge shout out to Nicholas. He actually got. We were in the office. I was like, hey, man, I'm kind of wanting to see F1. And he's like, oh, man. I was like, but I haven't had anyone to go with me. And he's like, well, I'll go. And I was like, oh, sick. And then he bought my ticket, which was awesome. So huge shout out to Nick for not only going to the theater, but also purchasing my ticket. That's a big boy move. Awesome friend there. Longtime listener. Honestly, one of my most consistent listeners that we know of is Nick Grimes. He's awesome. Anyway, F1, we also have the full Ironheart series has dropped. It finished up last Tuesday with a 3-episode finale premiere. So that one is signed, sealed, and delivered to anyone who has a Disney Plus membership. You can watch the entire 6-episode season now. And yeah, so Superman this weekend. We had Jurassic World drop last weekend. The weekend before that was F1. And then in 2 weeks, we have Fantastic Four. So we're going to be having a Fast and Furious July. Here we go. Jacob, I know you haven't had much, but in the times to watch, you've been incredibly busy with family and your job and your class and everything else going on. But is there anything that you've been able to do in the terms of media that you've been able to enjoy over the past few weeks?
No, this past weekend we had a great 4th of July. I mean, you actually got to spend the whole 4th of July together, so that was a lot of fun. But other than that, like you hit on, I had some family come down and visit, so I spent the weekend with them after we were done watching some great fireworks here in Jacksonville. And then I got home super late Sunday night. I think I got home like around 9:15-ish. So I went straight to bed. Yesterday is a Monday, so you guys know those are always crazy if you guys work on Mondays, which I'm sure a lot of people do. Some people don't, and I envy those people that have those Mondays off. But yeah, it's been a crazy week, so I haven't had a chance to catch up on stuff, but hopefully I'll get caught up at some point in the near future.
Yeah, and we know you will. Now, I'm going to go ahead and jump in and talk about F1 because it is the more positive of the two that we have to talk about. A little spoiler for those of you who are going to be waiting for the Ironheart series. We touched on a little bit. I gave my brother's rating an 8 out of 8, but I didn't watch it myself. But now I'm back and I'm here to talk about it. I just want to talk through it real quickly with how the movie is structured. We love to go through the pacing, the storytelling, the acting, the cinematography, the visuals, and just anything else that kind of sticks out to us. And first off, I want to say the pacing of this movie was very good. The pacing of F1 was super solid. There was no real lulls in it. There was one point where I was like, okay, like I feel like there's nothing really like going on here. Super important. But it wasn't like it was like bad. It was a montage, and in the montages, I'm like, how much are we really getting shown here? So the pacing of that was actually was very good. Nothing negative to say about the pacing, in my opinion. The acting was phenomenal. Now, you got Brad Pitt at the helm. Jacob, are you a Brad Pitt fan?
I would necessarily say I like seek out movies that he's in. Generally, when he's in movies, I do enjoy his acting. But I think back on it, there's really not a ton of movies that I've actually watched with Brad Pitt in them, like as the lead. I feel like it's probably more than I realized. I probably had to like look through a list of all the movies he's been and be like, oh yeah, I actually have watched him a lot more. But off the top of my head, like the only standout movies like to me is like Fury, which I thought he was phenomenal in. That's one of my favorite like war movies. And just random stuff like that. So I wouldn't say I'm like not a fan, but I don't necessarily seek him out whenever he's like in a movie. He's not like a blockbuster name that gets me to go just because Brad Pitt's in it.
Yeah. Honestly, I adore Brad Pitt. He is one of my favorite actors. He has been for a very long time. And one of the movies that really started me into loving movies deeper, like once I started to get to discover movies on my own, was his movie Fight Club. And I love Fight Club. I think he's phenomenal in that. He's got incredible movies like Seven. Uh, Snatch is one that he's in shortly. Has a great like little cameo scene in it. The Ocean series, he's phenomenal in. Troy, one of my all time favorite movies. Uh, we got Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Curious Case of Benjamin Button, Inglorious, Megamind, which I think is hilarious with his voice acting in that, Moneyball, and just time after time, he puts out just incredible performances with amazing movies, and I mean the list just goes on. I think he's in over 100 movies. One of his best movies, Deadpool 2, just really showcasing the amazing acting chops for any of those who have seen Deadpool 2. He is invisible and speechless. Um, but he brings all of that into this movie, and he is just such a likable, charismatic character. He is super charming. He is strategic. He is thoughtful. He is thought provoking, and you really like this character. It's even like even the unrealisticness of the character still brings joy, and you really relate to just like you want to cheer for the dude. Like even though it's not like he's the best character that I've ever seen before, but just the way that Pitt personifies him is just spectacular. So the acting in this is just very, very good. With him at the helm, and then honestly, everyone else in the movie does a great job. Javier Bardem does a knockout job as Ruben. He is very believable. He is incredibly good every time he's on the screen. And then Carrie Condon, who plays Kate, she is super super good. And the whole movie, I was like, I feel like I've seen her in something. Like I feel like I know who this character is, and I could not place her at all until I went back after the movie and I looked up her IMDb, and she is the voice of Friday, the AI for Tony Stark's suit and Peter Parker. Um,
Yes, that's where you're getting that voice from.
that's where I was getting that voice. I was like, I know who. Like I've heard her before. I thought that I had seen her before, and I have seen her, and she's in like she plays in Better Call Saul, which I've seen her in, which is phenomenal. And then I felt like there was something else that I've seen her in, but she is super good. And then she also voices Farah from the Skeleton Crew, so that was another voice, which I think is the owl.
Okay,
From
gotcha, gotcha.
from Skeleton Crew. So she does an incredible job. Very very solid performance from her. And then Damson Idris, who is playing the JP character, who is opposing teammates with Brad Pitt. Really good for him. One of his first roles, he really nails exactly what the script was calling for him from. We got supporters like Tobias Menzies, who is, one of the people on the board. He does his role to perfection. And then Sarah Niles, who is in, she plays Bernadette, JP's mom. She is from Ted Lasso, and she does a great job in this film, really bringing in those motherly instincts, and really such a sweet character to be portrayed in this film. I just like, honestly, this cast is so good. Um, I really think that if you just look at this from an acting perspective, it's just an enjoyable film because of how well this is acted. It's shot. The cinematography is the thing that plays right alongside of this. Is the cinematography in this thing is top notch. It keeps you on the edge of your seat. You feel the action scenes. When you're in the car, your heart starts racing. And we didn't even see this in IMAX. It was just regular Cinemax. And it was still so well done that I didn't even think I needed IMAX to get the full experience. I felt like I got the full experience. And it was, man, it's been a long time since a movie has made me feel like I was there quite like that movie did. Honestly, probably the last time I felt like that in a movie was um, Avatar: The Way of Water, and that's very very high praise from me because that's one of my favorite movie experiences I've had. So, man, cinematography is top notch, which you can see from the previews that this movie is going to be very like they're going to take a lot of care in how it was shot because it is the experience. Did you get that from the trailers? Did it what do you think about that? Is that what you expected to hear?
Yeah, especially after the trailers, I think we kind of knew that if anything, this movie was going to be visually pleasing. And from all reports, you just talking about it and everything that I've read online, everyone said it looked really good. So that's not really surprising to me at all. I feel like Apple kind of has like a knack for doing that nowadays. It feels like if anything from like any sort of Apple production, it's going to look good.
Yeah. I, they do put very high quality shows out, and they put a lot of time into the execution of them. We complained about some of the Disney Plus shows and how they look. This is not falling under that. This is um, every dollar that was put into this budget went into marketing, into acting, and into the cinematography because this thing is super good. Now, um, I'm gonna cut it off. Well, no, I'm gonna give a little bit about story. Story is incredibly good story, heartfelt, and you're invested in it. You're invested in the characters. You're invested in the story. However, I do think the story falls to be incredibly uh, predictable. I think it's a story that's been told before, may not in this way, but the fact that this isn't a true story, that it is telling you it at face value, and it's incredibly predictable. I do think that hurts the movie a little bit, just with the predictability of it. Not necessarily a terrible thing, but it is like I do think that takes away from points of the movie. It's not incredibly emotional. It's not really trying to say a message, um, and it's predictable. So that kind of is where it falls for me. My brother said it was an 8 out of 8, and my rating for this movie is an 8 out of 10. I do think he nailed it with the 8, but I do think there's things in this movie that could drastically make it better for me. There was a lot of heart in this film, but not a lot of like really draw you in a big emotions that you kind of really want from those 10 out of 10s, whether it is like just incredible happiness, or um, you really want to feel the depression and the sadness or the joy or the loss that the characters are feeling on screen. I didn't really feel that in this movie, and that may have just been me, but I think that's a pretty common like reaction to this. It's called one of the guys I listened to, he called it a dad movie, and I really could echo that because this is just like a good blockbuster, feel good, go have a good time at the theater movie. And so I think an 8 out of 10 is very high praise, and that 8 is carried drastically by acting, cinematography, and by a subject matter that I adore. What it's losing points for is what I just said, predictability. There is some engineering in it that I think is just atrocious. Um, like timing and what they're doing with it. It just um, coming from someone who dabbles in aerodynamics, it is kind of wild just what they tried to present on screen and how it performed. So that for me, the unbelievability of that story point and everything else that was going on, it does kind of take me out of it just slightly. I don't think it was terrible. And then there were some key moments in the film where they were really doing a great job showing us what they were trying to say, and then they told us, and I hate that. I hate it so much. Um, so, but I think that's pretty much it for F1. I don't want to take the entire time of the podcast rambling on about this because I don't want to take up all of Jacob's time, you know. But it was a very good movie. If you are planning to go watch a movie, I would highly recommend this one. It is a fantastic theater experience. It is a very good, enjoyable movie, and I don't think you'll regret it.
Now, we do have a couple of other big movies coming out this month. Knowing what you know now about F1, if someone said, I can only make it to the movies, 2 times this month, would you recommend this movie at this point, knowing what you know now and knowing what we could be getting with Superman and Fantastic Four? Or would you maybe tell people to hold off on this one and wait for those two?
If you're listening to this podcast, I'd probably say watch the other two. But if you are not a comic book fan, or like a casual comic book fan, like you've kind of like got comic book fatigue over the past few years, I would say definitely go watch F1 instead because it's just going to hit for you. I don't know about Superman, I don't know about Fantastic Four, and I think that the general audience will enjoy F1 more than they would those two movies, especially with the reports coming out that Superman is the most comic booky movie that James Gunn has ever produced. So that to me says if you are not a comic book fan, maybe it's not for you.
Yeah, I think that's good to know, especially like because probably if you're watching this, you probably are a big comic book fan because that's the majority of what we talk about. But it's always interesting to hear, maybe the movie did live up to expectations in some ways, but obviously it's not a perfect movie with an 8 out of 10. So sometimes it might be like, oh, maybe you should hold off and see how these other movies review before you go spend your money on this one. So I think that's a good point to bring up, though.
Yeah, absolutely. If you are hesitant at all about Superman or Fantastic Four, and I think that's what you just like what you're just saying, like, yeah, absolutely go watch F1 because if there's any hesitation, that means you're probably not excited about them, and this movie will deliver no matter what. So I would hedge my bets toward that. But I am a little biased because I do love cars and I do love the actors that are in this movie, and I really can appreciate the cinematography. But I think everyone else is kind of right around the same lines, if not a little higher on this than I am. So I don't think anyone's leaving this theater disappointed.
Yeah, which I think is, obviously the whole point. You don't want to be upset after you leave the theater and be like, man, there's so much they could have done better. And it sounds like this is just a very solid movie overall.
Oh yeah, super solid. So, um, but with that being said, I do want to go ahead and get on to Ironheart. Now, I won't be as long winded on Ironheart for the review portion because Jacob has not watched Ironheart, and I kind of, but he's already had it spoiled for him. So
Mm.
the fact that Jacob has had everything spoiled for him bodes well for me because then we can kind of talk about the future of the MCU mm, instead of just what Ironheart was. Um, so quick review and what Ironheart was for me. Um, if you are not a diehard Marvel fan, steer very, very far away from this. Do not touch this with a 10-foot pole, in my opinion. if you are a Marvel fan, tread lightly. So I it's so funny because this show is so unique for me in the fact that I found myself really wanting to watch more, but it wasn't because it was good. And it wasn't because I was hate watching it either. Um so that, like, for me, that's super weird, and I couldn't really pick it, and I think it's because I like the lead actress. Like, I think she was doing a great job, and I really love the Hood's character. And so watching her make bad decisions after bad decision after bad decision just made me want her to fix it. Like, I wanted her to fix it. Like, I was really invested in her fixing it. So, um that is pretty much all I'm going to say about Ironheart. Um, I gave a pretty good intro review last week on whether you should or should not watch Ironheart, and my decision has not changed at all. Um, my opinion hasn't changed at all. This is like a completely skippable Marvel project. I don't think you're gonna have, if you watched Wakanda Forever and the character comes back completely and totally different in the next one, I'd be mind blown. I don't know how much of the story they're gonna tell. There are some big moments, so if you are not planning to watch it, go ahead and stick around and listen to the next few minutes of this podcast, because we're gonna break it down what happened and how this will affect the MCU if they choose to do so. Because they did introduce some massive characters. They did introduce some pretty, like, it is going to be hard for this character to move forward with what they've done. Uh, but it's wild. So this is your spoiler warning. I'm going to give you a little bit of time to click off, and then we're just going to drop down straight into spoilers with it. Jacob, how are you feeling about Mephisto?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Like, I haven't got a chance to watch this, so I don't know a ton of the context of how he's used throughout the show and stuff like that. Overall, though, just the fact that he is kind of the selling point of the show at this point, I am a little bit disappointed that this is where they chose to, introduce him into the MCU. I feel like he could have been introduced in a much bigger project, being, the large scale villain he is and can be. And for this to be used in what we're potentially calling a throwaway show, or even the fact that it's in consideration to be a throwaway show, has me pretty disappointed, because there's so many cool storylines you can do with Mephisto, so many cool things that could happen. And just the fact that this is where it's introduced, and like you said, maybe they'll run with it, maybe they won't. It's just the fact that maybe they won't, or maybe they're going to do something that makes this show, contradict the MCU even more than the MCU already does sometimes, is a little bit disappointing.
Yeah, for me, it's very disappointing, and more so disappointing for the fact that he wins. So, if you stick around for the spoilers, you either watched it or you didn't care. And if you didn't care, here is what happened. So, Riri defeats Parker Robbins, who has the Hood mantle, the Hood who was given to him by Mephisto. Mephisto is the devil in um, Marvel comic books. So she defeats him, and then upon defeating him, she has a talk with Mephisto. Mephisto then promises to bring back her cousin to life, in which case she does. She takes the deal. She sells her soul in order to bring her cousin back. And this is just the most mind-blowing thing for a protagonist to do in a Marvel show. Oh man, it's so bad. And this is on top of poor decision after poor decision after poor decision. This character didn't learn a thing this entire show. She, oh man, I can get ranting real quick on this show, and I don't want to, because I don't want to just slander the mess out of it. But this character never learned from her decisions. She backstabbed people. She created villains. She is selfish. She puts her family in harm's way, and she doesn't know how to deal with loss, and just when you think maybe she's starting to deal with loss, she sells her soul to the devil, and it's mind blowing. I have no words to describe how disappointed I am with the way that they took Riri Williams, who is supposed to be Iron Man's successor and was a character that I really enjoyed in Wakanda Forever, and really drug her through the decision making garbage. And it's just, ugh, it's so frustrating. They did it. They did it again. And they're going to stand on the backs of people saying that this is a race issue when they are just making bad characters for us. They did it with Sam in Captain America, Brave New World. They made a terrible movie and they claimed it was because of his race. And now they are taking a character and they said, if you don't like Riri Williams, it's because you're racist. They have already made that statement online. And now it's like, no, she literally made the worst decisions you could ever make time and time again, and then sold her soul to the devil. Like, oh, I'm frustrated. I don't know if you can
So
tell.
I'm a little different in the fact that I don't necessarily hate when the villain wins. Like I almost love it. Like I love when Thanos wins in Infinity War. Like that's like I love that type of stuff because it gives you something to like move forward with. Like okay, the villain actually won. How do you move forward? How do you progress? I kind of like that stuff. I don't like it necessarily in the fact of this show when it is done with the way all the things you were saying. Like taking a character and kind of just having them continuously beat their head up against the wall of making bad decision after bad decision when like it is so evident to the viewer that they're bad decisions. Now, if it's stuff that like at the end of the day, you think back on it, you're like, wow, I didn't even see that becoming a bad decision. Like maybe you almost think it's the right decision, but after you're told the whole story, you're like, oh wow, I can't believe that that actually played out the way that it did. That's better. That's good storytelling. But when it's just like right in your face of being bad decisions, that's when it gets frustrating. And that's kind of when like the villain winning is kind of evident throughout the whole show. It's kind of just makes it like not fun.
Yeah. No, you nailed it on the head, and I can't help but go back to Penguin, right? And we're
Yep.
seeing, I forget his name, my favorite character. What's the kid's name in the Penguin?
Oh, what is his name? I'll look for you while you
But
think.
anyway, we get to see him struggle and make bad decisions,
Victor.
and then yeah, Victor. Oh man, you really your heart for Victor because you see him going down, and you see the internal struggles, and you see what's going on, but you understand where he's coming from, and then ultimately the villain does win, and it makes you hate him even more. Oh, the more. But this, I don't, you don't get that. This story arc is just like we started from a place of like I don't know what character comes in like Riri did at the start of this series, and then you like them. They come in trashing on MIT, saying that she doesn't have uh any help, but had a grant enough to make an Iron Man suit, and then doesn't joins a gang, robs everything, tries to get money. And then when she can't solve her problems, she doesn't solve it herself. She goes to a magician and infuses her suit with magic in order to beat the Hood. And it's like, so you couldn't even think out of your own problems. I can't think of a power source like I'm not Tony Stark's wealth. Well, Tony Stark did it in a cave. He made an arc reactor. Like, it wasn't his wealth that got him an arc reactor. It was that big old brain of his. So maybe think your way out of this instead of trying to take the easy way. But that's what she does time and time again, takes the easy way. And ultimately, she takes the easy way right to the devil and sells her soul instead of dealing with losing her cousin. And it is the most frustrating thing. um, so yeah, very frustrated with this, and I have no clue what they're going to do with this character moving forward. I have no clue how they include her in anything.
Yeah, that's kind of the interesting part moving forward is like where does this go? I still like we've talked about so many times on here. This still really feels like a throwaway show. I don't see us really probably ever going anywhere with any of this stuff. It kind of reminds me of like at this point what Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania was, right? You have this big build up for Kang, all this stuff happens. lo and behold, Marvel goes a different direction. There's no more Kang. That's essentially a throwaway movie now, right? Nothing else that happened in that movie is really relevant to what's happening now for Marvel. And so I kind of feel like that with this show a little bit, obviously a little bit of different context because of the reason why they did not move forward with the Kang storyline, but still feels like that's like what we got. Like that movie is essentially you don't need to watch it anymore. And that's kind of like I'm gonna get around to watching this show at one point, but that's been one of the reasons why like I wasn't staying up late to watch it is because it just has felt like a throwaway show this entire time. We've talked about again about like how it came out way later than it should have. Like this should have been something that came out a couple months after Wakanda Forever, while everyone was still thinking about the character, while there was actually a storyline to be told. Like seeing how she deals with not being there anymore and having access to all the technology she did have, but now let's see her use her brain to kind of create her own version of that she had exposure to. So this has just been like a frustrating part with this show from the beginning. I think me and you both for a while, you know, whether we heard it through the grapevine, I think for a while I definitely thought this was going to be something that got canceled. So the fact that it did come out, I was like, it doesn't seem like this is going to be really relevant. And apparently after hearing all the reviews, it kind of more so feels like that still.
And it looks good. Like, it's so funny because this show actually does look pretty good. Like, I don't have many complaints with the CGI. I think they did a great job with it. And the acting is pretty good, minus the things I ranted about last time with Slug, Jaron Merrill, and Zoe Tariq's, both thinking they're of the opposite sex is just mind-numbingly hard to deal with, consistently put on screen. So that is what it is. In addition to all the other problems I have with it, that is forefront on the show, and it's not like a side characters. They are front and center. So that's incredibly frustrating as well. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe they get Doctor Strange and they get Ghost Rider, right? And they try to free Riri from this terrible decision she made. And she can go get some stronger characters that help her out of this situation too. But yeah, as far as a path forward, I don't know. I don't know.
Do you see this being like if you had to pick right now, do you see this being something that's moved forward with Marvel, especially with the direction we're already heading in with, you know, Doctor Doom, Fantastic Four, Doomsday, Secret Wars? This really doesn't feel like anything that will be coming of time anytime soon. It feels like this would be something that if it does move forward with, it's years down the road, and at that point the show is even more irrelevant and kind of gives them even more of an excuse to kind of undo some of the things they did here.
Yeah, I feel like this is a reset moment. Bob Iger already cutting down so much on what kind of media is getting put out, how many shows are getting released. Kevin Feige's on board. We're gonna back off. Cannot imagine them wasting time, money, and storytelling on this storyline. It's just not. It's just not worth it.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like that's kind of been the consensus. I haven't heard anybody say like this is much watch Marvel, like you have to watch this, even if it's like not necessarily pertaining to this. Nothing about the show is even must watch, like just period, right? Like it's not even just a good show that even if it didn't move Marvel forward in any way, it's still fun to watch. It doesn't seem like this just really has anything going for it, which obviously anytime we have a show like that, it's not like it makes us happy to make those statements. It's not like we want to waste our time watching something that's really not going to be worth anything, in a few days. We want everything to matter. I think that's what made the early MCU viewing so special is that everything did matter, everything built together, and it just feels like we've gotten so far away from that. And I'm really hoping with them cutting back a little bit, maybe it does get us back on track to getting back to where everything is important to watch. If you want to watch, keep up with the MCU, you need to watch all the projects. And it does feel like they've gotten away from that, but hopefully this is like maybe the course correction that is needed just to get back to everything actually being relevant.
Yeah, I definitely think that's how they need to do it. I know that in Marvel Comics you don't have to do that, but I think in this cinematic universe it doesn't work if you don't need to watch everything
Mm.
because it just becomes like, why am I watching this? And and maybe that's different if they were just telling good, complete stories. I think of like Hawkeye, and I love Hawkeye. I think it's one of the better MCU shows. But it's just like a complete story. Like they tell a complete story, and it's a fun little journey they're doing there, and it has some tie-ins, but they're not crucial. It's not they're not
Mhm.
affecting anything, and I really think that's how they really need to go back to showing some of the stuff. But I don't know. Introducing Mephisto in a throwaway show is definitely a
It's a
decision.
choice.
Yeah, I would say a
Well,
bad one.
well, let's go ahead and you've watched the show. What is your rating of this one?
I give it a 4 out of 10.
A 4.
A
We're
four out
getting
of
down into
ten.
like we're getting down into those echo levels of bad TV.
Yeah, honestly, Echo made significantly better decisions. The visuals in this are fine. I like the Natalie storyline, but for a main, if this show would have ended with her learning a lesson and saying no or anything that was actually worthy of a protagonist being watched, then I think that I might have been able to give this, or even if the Hood would have won, knocked her down, and like, hey, she's got to build her way back up in the next season. That would have been better than this. And so for the storytelling finale, at just a 6, like straight off bad storytelling, and then all of the other stuff that is also in here, I can't. That's full docking points for each character that's got a prominent role, an automatic dock of a point. For me, the acting is atrocious. Everyone except for our like our direct leads. Anthony Ramos did great. Dominique Thorne, she's good as Riri. I just hate how she's written. Lyric Rose is a absolute phenom as Natalie. She does great. I love her portrayal of that character. It's fun. She's good with it, and I really like what she does. Matthew Ellum, he's fine. Alden Enrich, I think is his name. He plays Ezekiel Stain. He does good. He's fine. It's not like he's standout or anything. And then Aisha White does a great job as her mom. I was really impressed with her, but everyone else in the show is pretty low key. Harper Anthony, who plays Landon, is a little kid who has a wagon, cute as can be, super enjoyable. I love that dude every time he's on. He's always about the hustle, getting her to pay to carry her suit everywhere she goes because she's not smart enough to actually be able to get it to work. So
Man, we're throwing out some shade this episode.
I'm frustrated. I'm frustrated with the show. But yeah, no, 4 out of 10. Agenda pushing, front and center, terrible storytelling, terrible decision making, ruining storylines, trashing on what has came before it. And all of that just makes for a pretty rough solution. And then I talked about F1 with some unreasonable engineering. Uh, let's just talk about this for a second. We take a Dodge Charger and we turn it into one of the most advanced weaponries in the entire universe with LED lights all over it, infused with magic, and that stuff is supposed to hold up. Like sheet metal doesn't just magically transform into plate armor. Like you can shoot through a car door pretty easily. Like if you think that a car door is going to stop a bullet, you've watched too many TV shows. It will not. You are dead unless it is a armored car. That's why you have to have those. So uh, just seeing her take them saying that they're going to take the car and then the car is all apart and they made a suit out of it. Yeah, that's some garbage. And it's like, if it would have even had like some resemblance of the car, that would have even been better. Like if you could have seen like where it came from. But this looks like the most futuristic advanced suit you've ever seen in your entire life. And yeah, it's just not great. Yeah, 4 out of 10. That's what I'm giving it.
Well, at least we do have one thing to look forward to. I figured we'd bring up real quick since it's a little shorter episode. Dune Part 3, officially titled that, has begun filming, I think, as of today. Zane, talking about something that has some great storytelling and some amazing acting. How excited are you for that one?
Oh, I am so thrilled. I'm very, very excited to see Dune Part 3. Messiah, I was so excited that Dennis Villeneuve, he, you know, he was just so infatuated with the story that he stopped what he was doing and decided to continue writing the script for Dune 3 ahead of time. And now we have the cast back assembled. They are shooting it this week. That is just super excited. And it's coming out next December. So not this one, but 2026. And so yeah, I cannot wait for Dune Messiah. I think they said Dune Messiah and Secret Wars were supposed to be slated for the same day, but I think that got changed. And if that was the case, I would still be watching Dune first.
Oh, some big news. That's a big drop right there.
Yeah,
I'd probably be right there with you. It's just peak movie
it's
going
too
experience.
good,
It's too
too
good.
good.
The world is awesome, and it's one of those things that we don't have a ton of content to really mess it up, right? Like it's just what it is. So yeah,
Yeah.
I'm excited for that. We still have some big stuff this year. We've touched on Superman, Fantastic Four, keep slipping under the radar, but we have an Avatar movie at the end of this year, which is going to do crazy numbers. I know you're excited for that one. I'm excited. I'll probably go with you to watch my first Avatar movie in the theaters because I haven't watched either of the other two in the theaters. So that'll be fun. But we have a lot to look forward to, so we can't let these little shows bring us down too much because they're just a small bump in the road of the great movie going show watching experiences we have yet to come.
Oh yeah. No, it's definitely not bringing me down. It's just making me hate it.
Oh man.
A little bit of oxymoron there, you know.
Yep. Yep.
You got to, you got to. But man, yeah, I was happy to see F1. F1 was great. That was a really enjoyable time.
There's something. At least you got one thing going for you.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, I got a lot of stuff going for me, just not Ironheart. All right. Well, guys, I know this is a little shorter episode, but we're excited. We got a massive weekend coming up, and we're gonna be hitting you with a Superman breakdown next week review.
Yeah,
So I
crazy.
cannot
It's
wait to bring
finally
that
here.
back. Yeah, tune in for that. I'm hoping it's more positive. So we'll see. But guys, thanks for sticking with us and hearing me rant. Listening to me rant and talk about F1 a little bit. But thanks so much for tuning in. If you have any rants of your own, or maybe my rant is completely unjustified and you want to tell me about it, guys, go ahead, hit us up on Instagram, join the Discord. Um, make sure that you contact us. We want to hear your recommendations. And like last week, we did our questions. If you have a question about anything that you would like to hear us talk about or answer, let us know. We are very excited to hear from our fan base and we'd love to talk about it here on the Weekly Fix. But anyway, thank you guys so much for joining us, and we will catch you next week in another episode of Weekly Fix.